Hey everybody, Marcus here. I wanted to put together an analogy that helps us easily navigate the choices and placement of various men within the MGTOW community. Now, the notion of self-preservation is an overarching theme within the community, and if we capture this theme in isolation, I believe we can analogize it, well, to trench warfare. Now, during World War I, before tanks made trench warfare an untenable tactic, we had the following setup. Now, two opposing armies would each construct long-running trenches in which the soldiers would, well, sit in. When a command came to go over the top, the soldiers of one army would exit their trench, cross no man's land, and attempt to take over the enemy trench. No man's land was, well, around a mile, as this would put the soldiers in each trench safely out of range of, well, most weapons of the time. If a trench was conquered, the soldiers on the losing side would typically retreat to a trench that had earlier been constructed a mile further from their position. Now, this process of storming one trench after another, well, would go on for months. Now, the various positions that MGTOW take can easily be represented by trenches. On the top of the diagram, we have the invading Blue Pill army composed of politicians, white knights, manginas, well, and feminists. The weapons of war of this invading army are laws, social norms, shaming tactics, well, and so on. The first trench that the gynocentric army stormed was the marriage trench. The gynocentric army crossed no man's land by passing laws such as the tender years doctrine, no-fault divorce, and through these changes, some of the behaviors that governed other laws such as alimony and child support. Now, men have been brutally defeated in the marriage trench to the point where some called a general retreat out of this trench to one of the trenches lower on the battlefield. The enemy, however, pushed further and stormed the cohabitation trench. Here we have the onset of, well, things like palimony laws, micro-divorces, and other phenomena that fuck over men. Though the cohabitation trench is not as overrun with the enemy as the marriage trench, many still find it too dangerous and as such retreat further back into the dating, relationship, and one-night stand trench. But even men in this trench are still in danger of false allegations, sperm jacking, pregnancy, well, and the slowly creeping affirmative consent laws. You see, the gynocentric army is slowly pushing men back from one trench to another. Even the sex with prostitutes trench has the dangers of the Swedish model encroaching over no man's land. Now, the trench furthest from the front lines is the celibacy trench. This trench, for the time being, does not appear to have any enemy invaders outside of the shaming tactics that can be leveraged against men who end up in this trench. Now, when we look at MGTOW orthodoxy, we see that the marriage trench is asserted as absolutely enemy territory. Though the cohabitation trench has yet to be formally banned within the community, many, if not most MGTOW already implicitly treat this trench as a no-go zone. Now, the question is, why has MGTOW outlawed the marriage trench? Well, because we have plenty of gynocentric laws in place that can destroy men in this trench. In addition to this, we also have a lot of reports from the field of men who have been in this trench to confirm what happens there. We have statistics, and from these we draw a confident decision that this trench is indeed enemy territory. However, the difference between the marriage trench and the cohabitation trench is that the invading gynocentric army has not as of yet had enough time to fully occupy the cohabitation trench. However, it is on the way. The laws will come, and with them the stories from those in that trench, and shortly after, the statistics. Now, I predict that if it is not yet already a hard rule that you cannot be MGTOW and cohabitate, then it will become one given enough time. In addition to this prediction, I posit that given even more time, so too will the dating, relationships, and one-night stand trench succumb in the same way. In fact, as far as men on university campuses are concerned, that trench is already enemy territory. Seeing the stories and reports on what is going on university campuses in the United States, I could hardly bring myself to advise any man to date or have sex with women in such an environment. Now, MGTOWs differentiate themselves from MRAs in the sense that MRAs believe they can, through activism, improve the situation for men. In MGTOW, we reject this proposition. If this is true, then it is the case that the MGTOW position is that indeed the situation for men will continue to get worse or stay the same. Every indicator suggests that the situation will get worse. If we take this sentiment and apply it to the analogy I am putting forward in this video, then it is the MGTOW position that eventually every trench will be conquered by the gynocentric army, leaving celibacy as the last best hope for men. What is interesting is that the MRAs like Paul Elam and Dean Esmay look upon MGTOW as extremists for excluding marriage. The MRM account of MGTOW allows for marriage, even though it does not necessarily advise it. But in the same way, we look upon someone promoting exclusion of relationships and dating as being extremists within our own ranks. Now, I think the idea that celibacy is the only way to go will eventually become MGTOW orthodoxy given enough laws, horror stories, and accruement of statistics. The manner in which MGTOW decided to exclude marriage as a viable trench will be the same model that will, in my opinion, inevitably lead MGTOW to exclude all trenches leading up to celibacy. This won't happen in a year or two, but given a decade or two, I cannot see any other outcome. Now, if the invading gynocentric army was the extent of men's problems, then it would be a slightly easier battle. However, on top of the politicians, the white knights, manginas, and feminists who compose the gynocentric army, we have the call of the sirens. Now, for those who are not familiar, a siren is a mythical creature introduced in Homer's poem entitled The Odyssey. A siren is a female who sort of looks like a mermaid and sings a song so enchanting that sailors will throw themselves into the sea in order to get to the siren. Well, this of course leads to the sailor's death. The siren's call is the male sexual drive and desire for female validation and intimacy. It forever compels men towards women, and in the case of this analogy, it compels us to stay in one of the trenches closest to the front lines. It is a compulsion and pull that, I will never fault a man for possessing or succumbing to. However, it will be on the corpses, ruined lives, and enslavement of the men who gamble and lose that will fuel the statistics to have men pull back to a further trench, as we have pulled back on the corpses, ruined lives, and enslavement of those who married and continue to marry. To the men who continue to gamble in this way, be aware that though others will empathize with you, sympathy will be in short supply. Having said all this, I can only conclude that as far as the self-preservation aspect of MGTOW is concerned, we are in full retreat, and each trench will in turn be overrun, and so the statement of men can still date, have relationships, and be MGTOW needs to be qualified with, for now, while that trench has not yet been overrun. However, if university campuses are any indication of the future, don't hold your breath that you will be in relative safety there for long. For now, I ask you, what's the price of a mile? Thanks for listening. Go team.
Scars the fields that once were green. It's a stalemate at the front line, where the soldiers rest in mud. Roads and houses, all is gone. There's no glory to be won. Know that many men will suffer. Know that many men will die. 500,000 lives at stake as the fields of passion veil. And as the night falls, the general calls, and the battle carries on and on. What is the purpose of it all? What's the price of a mile? Thousands of feet march to the beat. It's an army on the march. Long way from home. machine guns kept on firing through the night. Mortars placed and wrecked the scene. Guns the fields that once were green. Still a deadlock at the front line, where the soldiers die in mud. Roads and houses since long gone.